Alrighty, so Arc Raiders is finally here, and the hype, it's unreal. This is easily the most amped up release I've ever seen for an extraction game. Now, I've played a fair bit of it myself over the past year, initially getting an early hands-on look back in November 2024, and since then I've participated in a few subsequent closed tests, along with the more open server slam that they held recently. And yeah, the game, it's pretty darn good. Now, time will tell if it lives up to like the longer term expectations, of course, but at the very least, I am pretty confident it's going to give me a bunch of fun over the next couple weeks here, and I am genuinely excited and looking forward to that. Like, I'm pumped to jump back into the game. But why? Like, what is it about Arc Raiders that has managed to get this much buzz and excitement compared to any of the other PvEVP extraction games that we have seen come and go over the past several years? There's definitely a few things that stand out to me the most. Number one, easily one of the biggest standout features and elements of this game is its PvE. More specifically, the AI enemies. These aren't just heaps of metal that point and shoot. They are varied, they are interesting, and they're a serious threat like most of the time. So there are several ground-based variants. First, you've got the tick, which scurries around and will cling to your face, sort of acting like a soft crowd control. Then there's the fireball, a rolling flamethrower that blasts fire in your face. You've got pop, which will try to roll up close to you and explode. There's a leaper that can cover large distances quite quickly and literally just tries to jump on top of you, smashing you into the ground. And then you've got the bigger kind of lumbering ground ones like the Bastion, which is slow and tanky with these heavy machine guns, or the Bombardier, which does exactly what it sounds like. It is essentially a mobile artillery. There's the flying creatures with the Wasp, who's quick and uses these light machine guns, the Hornet, which will electrocute you, locking you in place, the Rocketeer, which very quickly can overwhelm you by firing rockets in quick succession, and the Snitch, which will scan for players and if spotted sends out these loud distress signals, not only alerting other players to your presence, but also calling in reinforcement robots. And then finally, you've got the boss variant, which is the Queen, this gargantuan bot that appears to require multiple teams to actually realistically take down. I have never seen one be eliminated in any time I've encountered them in my games. Now, I remember reading an article a few years ago about how the developer was creating this really interesting tech in order to try to make their PvE enemies smart and deadly, and whatever it is they did, it worked. These are some of the most interesting AI opponents that I've fought against in a long while, and for a PvP extraction game, it is easily the best AI in one of these games that I've ever seen. And with that in mind, I will once more reference the fact that originally Arc Raiders was intended to be entirely cooperative PvE focused. There was no PvP extraction in like the original vision for this game when they began development. So they were building this AI with that end in mind, but then, as we now know, a few years ago, they decided to make the genre swap, and the result is now we have an extraction game with AI enemies originally designed for a PvE focused game, and it absolutely shows in a good way. It's awesome, honestly. And this is exactly what I'm talking about here. This is the kind of situation that can happen in this game, which is so cool.
Oh my god,
there's a jumper crawling down into the pit.
it looks sick though.
Kind of fiddling its way through, chasing him through a pipe. Like, it's so cool, dude. It's just so, I don't know, it's just so interesting. I don't even know exactly what it is about it. It's something about the way they move, the way they sound, and specifically the way they act. Look at that.
Oh my god, I'm dead.
It's so good, dude.
You're dead. Oh my god. Oh.
And that's a team wipe.
Karma.
It's a team wipe. You know what it is too? PvE enemies in so many of these games, they tend to just feel so simplistic where you've just got that aggro leash, right? So you'll aggro an enemy. Most of the time, all you have to do is just run however many meters away, and then it's just done. and then the enemy just turns back eventually. They reach the end of their leash, whatever it is, and then they go back to their original position and they start patrolling again. Now, there are circumstances in which you could get it. Like, I believe there'll be places that the jumper can't get into. So if you go under a small tunnel that it can't fit through, then it will go back. But if it has a path, an obvious path to you, and it's still aggro to you and doesn't get drawn attention from somebody else, it's going to keep going after you. And that's exactly what this is. And again, that adds a lot. This is really a big part of what makes this game special as far as I'm concerned. It's really something, honestly. And it's not even just like how the AI notices, reacts, and engages with you. That is impressive in and of itself. But also the extra layer of realism that they've created with how these things move, whether it's scurrying along the ground, leaping over gaps, or hovering in the air. Their movement looks incredibly realistic, even more so once you start damaging them, shooting and removing parts. They will react accordingly. Like, the ground-based ones will adjust to walk on one less leg if you remove it, or the flying ones will tilt and whirl if you shoot off one of their propellers, eventually learning to adjust and rebalance themselves with that missing propeller in mind. It's just so cool and adds a huge sense of immersion. It makes it all feel very real. And then also, as mentioned, these are a serious, legitimate threat. Even just on their own, these robot enemies are totally capable of killing you if you are not paying attention, trying to avoid getting shot, and focusing on taking down priority targets. But then you also throw in top the whole PvP aspect of this, and it's just like, it's crazy. In fact, I'll say this, you will 100% die to these AI enemies at some point after winning a PvP fight. It is going to happen eventually, like, without question. It's probably going to happen quite a few times, in fact. They are just that deadly, and they're going to be attracted to all the noise that is made while engaged in a shootout with other players. So what this means, though, in turn, is that you have to account for them showing up at some point, either during or after any fights that you get in, and be prepared to either eliminate them or to run and hide so you can heal, reload, whatever. In fact, these things are so effective at killing players that it's become like a fairly big point of contention within the community online. Just the other week, there was an interesting conversation about the difficulty of the Ark in a post here on the Ark Raiders Reddit that said, please do not nerf the Ark. Seeing a lot of streamers and YouTubers calling for the Ark robots to be nerfed as they're too difficult. The moment you do that is the moment this game turns into your generic extraction PvP game. The Ark is key to what makes this game so special. They can turn the tide of any PvP encounter. They can also dictate patterns of play for players, and that's basically exactly what I'm talking about. It is the addition into the equation of the difficulty of these PvE enemies, of the Ark, that adds to how players are acting in the games. Like, whether or not you're going to engage that group of 2 players that you see looting, if you also notice that there's a bombardier and a couple of wasps flying nearby, knowing that if you start shooting, they're going to look at you and start beelining it for you, that's just something else to account for, in addition to the calculations in the decision making that you're doing when you're seeing those 2 players looting bodies and you're trying to come in to third party them at the last minute. It's something else to account for, and I absolutely agree. I think that this is a large part of what makes the game interesting and what adds, it's just another layer, because a lot of times in these extraction games, yes, it is the case that you don't really have to consider the PvE, or at the least they're easy enough to avoid. So I'm right there with them. Like, I totally agree about this point here. You'll see people pretty upset after winning a PvP fight only to get obliterated by a rocketeer, and I use this specific example because it's happened to me multiple times. We would be in a fight with other players, we'd win, and then just rockets would be hailing down and be like, oh god, I'm dead, and try to come res me, and then my teammates die, and we're done in the match, and we gotta start all over again. So it's just, it happens. But honestly, while it can be frustrating in the moment, I think it's also a big part of the appeal for this game. And if you ask me, the fact that the PvE enemies are such a threat, it's one of the reasons people have taken to this game. That's just my opinion. I just quite like it. I quite like kind of the tension, the extra tension on top of the already existing tension that just PvP has. I like the additional bonus of, hey, the PvE is also going to kill you, so you got to pay attention. Another thing that this game absolutely nails is its atmosphere. Between the visual and audio presentation, this is just a great looking and sounding game, plain and simple. Visually, the whole thing has also a really nice level of clarity to it. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this, but I feel like a lot of games that I've been playing recently kind of look muddy or blurry at times. A lot of it might be down to just kind of the processing stuff or the things like DLSS that are used in a lot of these games. But Ark Raiders It is just clear and crisp as hell with some nice coloring to it too. It just looks really good. Also, my God, the lighting is fantastic. From the changes that occur outside based on the time of day or the current weather, to the lighting from electronic sources, but even more so, the lighting that pours in via windows and doors into any interior spaces, it just looks phenomenal. Like, this is some of the best looking lighting that I've ever seen. It just looks so good. And those visuals coupled with some great sound design between the environmental sounds, character movements, and the unsettling beeps and boops of those very deadly robots in the world, all of this just works towards building this atmospheric feeling for the game, especially for a competitive multiplayer game. It is just very immersive. Again, it kind of feels like it was originally a PvE game because it was originally a PvE game, but now it's got the PvP element. So you've got the super immersive, what was once just PvE focused experience with now competitive PvP thrown in, and it's just been a really nice mix. And this immersion is kind of interesting because to the point where people playing this game solo, it kind of makes it feel almost like a survival horror title. It actually reminds me a little bit of Hunt Showdown in that respect. Obviously not leaning actually into the same literal horror elements that Hunt Showdown does, but because the robot threat is so real and because the world is so immersive on top of the real threat of other players, while you're playing solo, it feels like a survival horror game in a lot of ways. Like, you tend to want to avoid getting spotted so you're not swarmed by bots and then calling other players, both of which might result in you dying pretty quickly. So it kind of becomes this game of you trying to stay quiet, get your loot, and simply not draw too much attention to yourself for fear of both those other players and the bots. And it's just pretty cool in that regard. I also think how they handle the whole lobby and extraction system really adds to this as well, because the games take place on persistent maps that will stay open for X amount of minutes, and you can come and go from matches that are already in progress. Many times you'll join a game that has already started some minutes ago. Now, with also having multiple extraction points up at all times rather than just a couple at the very end of the game or something, this gives players a lot of freedom because you can dip your toes in and quickly leave, or you can stay for a long while. It's kind of whatever you please. And also, there's no closing circle like mechanic in this game, something that, will force players to all converge to a tighter play space. Oftentimes, games will use this to try to push player conflict to keep players in a smaller area, but this game doesn't have that. So a lot of times you can choose if you want to get into PvP fights or not, quite literally by just deciding, when you hear gunshots, do I walk towards it or do I walk away from it? Or if I hear players nearby, do I just sit still in a dark corner? And what this means is that for players who want a slower pace with less PvP in an extraction game, they can literally do exactly that by sneaking around, looting, staying quiet, and then just extracting from one of the many different extraction points that the game has. Hell, I mean, you could even very well get into and out of matches collecting some loot without firing a single shot. It's totally possible, and I think this opens up the game to be more appealing to a wider audience of players, different players with different playstyles, rather than just the people who want to go in and straight up PvP right away. Also, I don't have a lot to say on this next point, but I think its importance cannot be overstated. Performance in this game is like S tier. I don't think in all of the testing that I've done, the many hours that I've already played, I can't recall like a single performance issue ever. No frame drops, no hitching, no rubber banding, just no issues whatsoever. It runs so well, and that adds a lot to the experience. Many games nowadays will have at least some, even if they're tiny, they will have some amounts of performance hiccups, never mind the games with constant performance issues that we keep seeing come out. Arc Raiders, it runs smooth as butter, and again, that adds a lot to what is already a great feeling game. This next point here is probably going to be a divisive one. In fact, I can guarantee it, but I'll just say personally, I prefer third-person shooters. I like first-person shooters, but if I have the choice, I tend to enjoy third-person games more. Now, I get that there is a very strong argument against third-person in games with PvP, the whole being able to see players around corners and all without them seeing you, but also everyone has that advantage. It just kind of gives a slightly more advantage to people who want to hide and camp and stay quiet. But again, I also think that's part of what's led this appeal. In fact, I will point out the fact that yes, Arc Raiders is easily one of the most hyped up and anticipated extraction games that we have seen in years, and it just so happens to also be a third-person shooter. Now, I'm not saying it is the main reason why people are so pumped for this game. I won't say that for sure. In fact, I just went over what I think are many of the main reasons why this game is so good and why people are so looking forward to it. But I'm just throwing it out there. This is one of the most hyped up extraction games, And it is a third-person shooter. Now, if Arc Raiders was first-person, would it be even more popular and anticipated than it currently is? I'm sure a lot of people out there would say the answer is yes. As for me, I don't know, not sure. But again, selfishly, I like third-person, so I'm pretty happy that this game is third-person. And all of this on top of many other reasons, which include things like some very solid-feeling gunplay, interesting loot. In the last test, I tried out the grapple hook for the first time, and man, it was awesome. They also don't have overly complicated consumables like you'll have a lot of extraction games that have different rarities of ammunition. So you've got like whatever 5.56 ammo, and then there's common, rare, common, uncommon, rare, and epic. Like I just hate it. Honestly, gross. But yeah, that's the whole point. It's a lot of those consumables in this game are just pretty straightforward and easy to understand and not a lot to juggle with. They also have a really good quick play option where you can instantly drop in with just a random weapon and items without having to fiddle with your inventory system. And they've got some interesting progression too, with different playstyle tracks and perks that you can invest in as you level up. All of this stuff has resulted in the very high levels of anticipation that we are seeing for this game. It also seems, as a result of these things and some of the stuff that I mentioned here, to be appealing to a bit of a different audience from that that is typically into traditional extraction PvP games. Also appealing to many of those fans. If anything, I feel like the hardcore extraction fan base, if there's been any big complaint from them, it's probably going to be the third-person element to the game. And I've heard a lot of complaints about the how hard the PvE is from some of that audience. At least I'll just say people that I know who are typically really into extraction games, those have been their two biggest complaints. They like it except for the third person, and they hate winning a PvP fight and dying to PvE. But from my perspective, I'm like, I really like that. So just stop being so greedy and pushing for PvP fights. You got to also pay attention to the PvE. That's a new element. It's something else to consider. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know. And while we're talking about how this game is like a lot of people are looking forward to it, it's highly anticipated, I just want to clarify, this isn't just a vibes thing either. In fact, take a look here on SteamDB when we're looking at some of the most wishlisted upcoming games. You can see Arc Raiders here at number 3 with 246,000, almost 247,000 wishlist. This puts them just behind Deadlock and Subnautica 2, and actually a fair bit above Light No Fire, which is genuinely surprising to me. Like, a lot of people have this game wishlisted. Very, very highly anticipated right now. But then also, I was just kind of curious, like, how is this game stacking up on Google Trends? Not exactly the best metric, but it is a metric that we can take a look at. And if you take a look here, I put up a chart of over the past 12 months, and I threw a few of the popular extraction games up there. You can see Escape from Tarkov certainly was more popular back in late December 2024, but it has been trending downwards, and just as of early October, it was bypassed by Arc Raiders, and Arc Raiders is now significantly a more searched term, and this includes Google searches, which does also encompass YouTube searches as well, just to put that out there and if people are curious. But then if you remove Tarkov and you just take a look at any of the other kind of popular extraction game competition, I mean, it's not even close. Like, so Tarkov is still, we're over the course of the past 12 months, Tarkov has certainly been a more searched term, but every other survival game, like, doesn't even touch it remotely, like, not even close. And I put Marathon Game in there just out of curiosity, and well, let's just put just Marathon Game and Arc Raiders and see how it's like. People talking, it's just not looking good for Marathon. I want all games to be good games, so I do hope Marathon turns itself around and they use all of their own art as well. That would be wonderful. What a debacle that was, huh? 99% of the Arc Raiders community, apparently. Hey, yes, there I am. Look, it's a photo of me and my friends on the bench. If this is a boomer game, I'm all here for it, man. I'm all here. Hey, again, it's one of the most anticipated PvE extraction games like we've ever seen. I've not seen this much hype around an extraction game in a very, very long time. Bungie couldn't do it with Marathon, that's for sure. So call it a boomer game, fine. You also get like a lot of fun and funny RP moments in this game, I've noticed.
Hey, bud, we don't have to do any of this.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
We don't see that. I don't want to do that with you. I'm totally cool just pretending that didn't happen. If you are too. This is me coming in, all right? I'm going to be friendly. You be cool. Can you see me? I see you. All right, cool. You can hear me. Nice. I'm assuming you don't have a microphone. Nice. You can use, are you on PC? Okay, so on PC, if you
I love the head gestures.
What key is it? Let me see here for you. It's G. It gives you a little emote wheel, and you can if you don't have a microphone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just like that. Like you can ask to team up. Want to team up? You can say sorry. You can say don't shoot if you're friendly. You fucking bitch! I'll remember that! I'll remember that on the full release, you son of a bitch! I'm coming for you October 30th, you piece of fuck! Oh, he was a streamer! He was a streamer, too!
Yeah, dude, I don't know. It's great. I am just so looking forward to the release of this game. You know, we covered some things here, some of the stuff that I think make it special. I think there's a lot more and other things you could certainly talk to, maybe a bit more even nuanced than what we're talking about here. But just in general, many of those elements and many more that I've not covered. This game's just doing, it's a nice cake. They've put the ingredients, a lot. It's another extraction game, right? And every extraction game, just like every cake, you got flour, you got sugar, you got some eggs, you got some water, but then there's a little extra spice. Those little extra spices that they added in this cake. It's like a nice carrot cake. You ever have a nice carrot cake? I didn't even realize until recently, like, yeah, there's actually like some spices in there, some like cooking spices. It's a good carrot cake. Arc Raiders, the carrot cake of extraction games. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to it. Hopefully I see you out in Speranza. What is it called? I'll see you in the game. I'll be playing this weekend, and yeah, maybe we'll do some more videos after launch. But that's all for today. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see ya.